and 35% off on any new preferred order. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and use discount code Chicago.
We are the entertainment you love and information that shapes your day. We are your lifeline. We are your companion. We are broadcasters. Text radio to 52886 and let Congress know you depend on your local radio stations. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Get Down to Business with Shalom Klein, the show for business powered by Mirabali Insurance. Sunday evenings at 6 on AM 560, The Answer.
6:39 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time and Jim.
Outbound Stevenson traffic is heavy from LaGrange Road to 83 with a crash blocking the left lane. The trip time is up to 48 minutes now from DeSable Lakeshore Drive to the Veterans Memorial Tollway. Inbound, it's 33 minutes. You'll hit the brakes from Lamont Road to 83 and between Pulaski and Kedzie. Inbound Edens runs 15 minutes, Lake Hook to Montrose. Kennedy, 26 minutes, O'Hare to downtown. Outbound 20. The Eisenhower, it's 28 minutes from 390 to downtown. Outbound 24. Inbound Ryan, 16 minutes, 95th to downtown. Bishop Ford, 13 minutes, 8094 to the Verge. CTA Yellow Line service is suspended right now due to debris on the tracks near Oakton. That's traffic. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Partly sunny. A thunderstorm developing through the day. High of 91. Currently 71. Next news coming up at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy playing a little Stones this morning, a tribute to the passing of Charlie Watts.
Did you see the beautiful tribute to him outside the Allstate Arena this morning when you were driving to work?
I did not.
I didn't think so because you drive so fast you missed it, but it's really nice. So.
Very good. All right, getting back to Afghanistan. I mean, the remarkable statements persist, and Jen Psaki is really sort of the leading purveyor of these statements, even more so than Biden. She sort of distills the ramblings of the president. This is Psaki talking to our friend there, Peter Doocy from Fox News, on vetting and the timeline, the deadline, because of the announcement yesterday that, no, we're going to abide the August 31st deadline because the Taliban told us to. Didn't quite say it that way, but that's the upshot of it. Here's Psaki.
Is there any concern that maybe trying to reach this deadline and get everybody out, mistakes are being made now that there is a report that at least one of the Afghans evacuated to Qatar has suspected ISIS ties?
Well, first I would say we have a stringent vetting process which includes background checks before any individual comes to the United States. So I can't speak to one individual, but I can tell you and confirm for you that we take the vetting of any individual who comes to the United States and comes out incredibly seriously. And it's an extensive process. I would say that this is now on track, Peter, to be the largest airlift in U.S. history. And that is bringing American citizens out. It is bringing our Afghan partners out. It is bringing allies out. So no, I would not say that is anything but a success.
On the greatest airlift in American history, rivaling the Berlin airlift, rivaling Saigon, I'll cede my time to Iowa Hawk on this, who tweeted, this is the greatest airlift in American history, like Chappaquiddick was the greatest midnight swim in American history.
Oh, okay. Too soon.
Is it too soon? You're not ready to deal with Chappaquiddick yet?
Just watch the movie again.
Speaking of the vetting process and Qatar, since Doocy brought it up, this story from ABC News,
privately, Qatari officials are warning America that the situation at U.S. facilities where thousands of Afghan evacuees are being housed is growing more dire. This, according to an internal State Department report that was obtained by ABC. Some Afghans and Americans who've been housed at these bases have spoken publicly about the lack of space, food, and water. But the urgent warnings from Qatari officials to their American counterparts speak to how thin-stretched facilities have become and risks that it entails, including for human trafficking. This is going very well. Going very well. And then a statement that Psaki made in response to a hypothetical that Joe Biden ignored when he walked out the door after his remarks. What will you do if there is an American left behind? Pretty good question, since you're going to abide this deadline that Chuck Schumer says you can't abide, you can't accomplish it. Pretty big statement, considering you still haven't communicated that you know how many Americans are in Afghanistan to be evacuated. But listen to this.
Say after the withdrawal, it's done, it's declared, it's done, everyone's out. If one US citizen was suddenly discovered, saying, hey, I really want to get out and I'm stuck, who knows where, somewhere in Afghanistan or in Kabul, has got any problem, would this trigger a diplomatic, military, all hands on deck type thing to get that person out, whatever the date?
Our commitment continues to be to US citizens. If they want to leave, we will help get them out.
No matter what the date.
Again, we expect there could be some, but I'm not going to get into it further.
We suspect there could be some. She's talking to them if their lives mean nothing.
We're going to do our best, but no promises. Is that good enough for America? For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Harry Kazianis. He is a senior director at the Center for the National Interest and executive editor of its publishing arm, the National Interest. Harry, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning, guys.
So first, on Monday, we learned Americans aren't stranded. And then yesterday, we learned that some Americans could be permanently stranded, but we're not going to talk about what we might or might not do about that.
Oh, I think, Dan, it's very clear that at least several hundred Americans are going to be stranded, if not thousands, and if not thousands of tens of thousands of U.S. allies, partners, Afghan interpreters, the janitors, the radio operators, the communications people, all the Afghans who were helping us lead this war effort. Now, look, Dan, I think we all have to be honest. The war in Afghanistan was never a popular war. And look, I'm going to take that one step further and say probably most Americans who lead busy lives, who do other things, who don't live in think tank land like me, can't even find Afghanistan on a map. And that's fair. There's nothing wrong with that. But what isn't fair is that America, in all of its history, except a few times, does not duck and run, does not leave Americans behind on the battlefield. We don't leave our allies on the battlefield. This is something that I don't think anybody could have predicted. Now, look, Joe Biden has never been very strong on foreign policy. If you just go back and take 5 minutes and review his foreign policy history, he's been wrong on pretty much every foreign policy question in the last 20 years. This isn't a shocker by any stretch of the imagination. But if the president understood that he made a mistake, that he pulled us out of Afghanistan too early, he should have reversed course like many other presidents who've been willing to say they'd make a mistake. I mean, heck, Donald Trump was willing to make a mistake, say he made a mistake, but he wanted to pull Afghanistan. He reversed course himself. We reversed course on Syria, on other things. I think the American people can accept when an American president makes a mistake. They can't accept when they double down over and over and over, and then send out their press flack, Jen Psaki, to say, well, if Americans want to leave, they can. That's a cover story. That's just the flack communications. Well, to be honest with you guys, it's disgusting.
It's not just a cover story. It's an affront. I mean, it should be an affront to people who believe in, America keeping its promises to her citizens, first and foremost, and her allies in addition to that. And speaking of allies, both Boris Johnson and Emmanuel Macron both implored Biden to stay and extend the deadline to get more people out. I'll tell you what, when you're being lectured by a French president about matters military, that's how far afield Biden is.
Yeah, it's terrible, guys. And, and some of the reason why Biden doesn't want to stay longer is tactical. I'm going to give him that. I'm going to give the president that much. But the reason why he probably doesn't want to stay longer is because if you look at the topography of where the airport is and trying to defend that airport, I've spoken to a number of senior U.S. military officials, and what they privately call it is a bloodbath. It's completely flat. if you look around at all of the buildings and all of the structures, the Taliban would easily be able to get very defensible positions, go on top of some of the new condo buildings that have built in Kabul, and just rain fire down on us. I mean, it would be a nasty situation for our troops that Joe Biden has put them in. So if Biden was smart and he was going to even think about extending this deadline, he would start pushing U.S. troops further out instead of withdrawing them, increasing that perimeter of safety, making sure that you have some sort of high ground to defend that position. Because, guys, if we have to stay any longer and the Taliban start to attack, easily terrorist weaponry would be very, very simple to get in there with IEDs, just simple throwing grenades into the base. But if they wanted to mount a real serious operation, they would be able to kill a lot of people very quickly.
They'd be using our equipment. They'd be using our weapons against us.
Like, why in the world do we leave millions of dollars of military equipment, which the Taliban, they've already helped themselves to? They're already wearing the fatigues, the American fatigues, and all of that stuff.
And our guns. I mean, if you just look at the pictures, they've already traded out their Russian AK-47s for American M16s and M4 carbines, some of our best weaponry, our Humvees. They have our Black Hawk helicopters that are worth millions of dollars. Now, it's clear that they're not going to be able to, get in them and train them because it takes months and years to get that proficiency. But don't tell me for a second that the Russians or Chinese can't figure well enough to train them to make them into basically suicide bombs and ram them into bases if they wanted. I think people are just starting to understand how bad this disaster is, guys. And it's only going to get worse.
Well, here's the thing, too. We talked to a retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel yesterday who's involved in the evacuations. And he said, we have the resources, and this is the U.S. military we're talking about. We could do whatever is needed to be done. So as you were saying, the airport at Kabul, that doesn't work. So we could reanimate Bagram. We could come up with other areas that we could more easily defend, as well as send people in to move people out wherever they are. We could do those things, but we have to get the order to do them, and that's what's lacking: the leadership.
Exactly. I mean, look, it's a simple plan, and I didn't go to West Point, but I think it's pretty straightforward. There's at least 10 to 15 good workable air bases in Afghanistan that you could send U.S. Special Forces to capture. Not going to be easy, but we could get those air bases within a few days. We could start gearing them up, and we could start bringing Americans and Afghans home. The challenge here, guys, is we're asking all the Americans and all the Afghan allies that are trapped within the whole country, hey, why don't you come down to Kabul where all the Taliban are and have hundreds, maybe 1,000 or more checkpoints, and basically run the risk of dying. Oh, and by the way, you have to travel all across this huge mountainous country to get there. Oh, and you got to get there by the 31st.
I know. I mean, some of it'll take them days to get there. But what about this paying the Taliban $2,000 a head to get into the Kabul airport? Is that for real?
I've heard that's real. I've heard they're willing to take drugs in some instances. That's something that's floating around in some of the private think tank channels. They're willing to take euros. They're basically willing to take whatever bribe you can, but that only gets you past one checkpoint. If you don't have enough money, you could get maybe 3 or 4 checkpoints in, and then you're stuck. So it's even worse than that.
Well, we see the stories are that people are being stuck, and you have planes, privately arranged planes, that are flying in and out, mostly unfilled, because the people that were orchestrating the private flights, including nonprofits, can't get the people out through all of these various checkpoints at the airport, and not just checkpoints, but all the trials and tribulations that are required even to get to the airport.
It's that, and it's also the vetting process, too. I've heard nightmare stories where, look, you go for a job these days. Sometimes a background check takes a week or 2 weeks. To get a gun in the United States, it usually takes a 7-day background check. Sometimes they're bringing people in within 2 or 3 days and just skating them through. Now we have reports about somebody who could be a possible terrorist in Qatar. But in some instances, they're making people wait even longer, a week, 10 days, 2 weeks in some instances, I've heard. It's completely inconsistent. So it makes sense why they're not able to fill this planes up. It's just nightmare on top of nightmare. And basically, this is Joe Biden's Mission Impossible, and he doesn't have Tom Cruise to bail him out. So
yeah, this is
that's true.
Everybody is I don't want to exaggerate. It's just hyperbole to underscore it, but it's like what Marcus Luttrell did in Lone Survivor. That's what we need everybody to do. We need everybody to run the gauntlet. Also this, too, I mean, and again, American citizens are primary here, but our Afghan allies and all those who put themselves in harm's way to help our troops over the last 20 years.
And we promised to get them out of there.
And the Taliban banning Afghans from the airport in Kabul, saying, we need their talent. So now what are you going to do? You're going to announce that you're not keeping your promises to all those Afghan allies of ours.
It's terrible. And I think what it speaks to is don't think for one second that all of our other allies and partners, whether it's in South Korea, who face, a 2.5 million man army in North Korea, aren't thinking about that same thing. Don't think about our allies in the Baltics who are scared about Russia someday coming over the border, aren't thinking the same thing. I mean, the challenge is Joe Biden, I understand, wanted to get out of Afghanistan. Every American president wanted to get out of Afghanistan. But there's a reason we stayed there. And the dirty little secret, guys, is those, couple thousand and now 2,500 troops, now zero, were essentially peacekeepers. They weren't in military operations. They weren't out there fighting the Taliban. But the threat was always there that if the Taliban tried to make a run at taking the country, we would move forces back in and we would stop them. That would bomb the you-know-what out of them. And by pulling those troops out, Joe Biden has essentially opened the ultimate Pandora's box. And now problem after problem metastasizes, but now it has global ramifications. Don't think for one second that Beijing looks at this and says, if Joe Biden is doing this on Afghanistan, what's he going to do to us on Taiwan or in the South China Sea or in the East China Sea? The Russians, same thing when it comes to the Baltics. This is why this is so terrible, because now our enemies are going to start testing us all over the world. And look, I just don't think Joe Biden's up to the challenge. I'm sorry.
He is Harry Kazianis. And by the way, I love the Twitter handle, Grecian Formula. Great Twitter handle. Senior Director at the Center for the National Interest, Executive Editor of its publishing arm, The National Interest. Harry, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The Lou Dobbs Financial Report is brought to you by Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Visit signaturebank.bank for your commercial banking needs.
I'm Lou Dobbs. A warning against flying drones over National Laboratory. Walmart enters the delivery business. Those stories next. As you know, my friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of your life. He created the best pillow, and Mike created the Giza Dream Bed Sheets. Mike found the world's best cotton, called Giza. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. Mike's Giza Sheets come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. Mike's latest incredible deal is the Sale of the Year. For a limited time, you will receive 50% off Giza Dream Sheets. You'll receive a set for as low as $49.99. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener square, and use promo code Dobbs. There you'll find not only Mike's amazing offer, but also deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the MyPillow mattress topper and so much more. Call 1-800-977-9152. Use the promo code Dobbs. Go to MyPillow.com. Make sure you use the promo code Dobbs. Authorities have issued a warning that airspace over Los Alamos National Laboratory is off limits. The lab, which is the birthplace of the atomic bomb, has reported that recent unauthorized drone flights have been detected in restricted airspace around the area. McDonald's says it's